Hey, 95.7 The Game is partnering with a great golf event at Harding Park on September 11th. It's the 8th annual Pettinelli Charity Golf Tournament. 100% of the proceeds go to the San Francisco chapter of the American Autism Society. The Autism Society is a complete resource for families of autistic children and adults, providing activities, information, and education. A few of our personalities are going to be out there golfing, and we want you and your company to join us. There's going to be a $10,000 hole-in-one contest, an auction with some great memorabilia, and a chance to hit some golf balls at the iconic TPC Harding Park with some of us from 95.7 The Game. Go to sfautism.org for more details. That's sfautism.org. Dibs and Allen Styles in the house. What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on, Steiny? How you doing, kid?
Not bad at all. Just in with Evan. And,
but before we dig into, of course, the nitty gritty,
maybe some pleasantries would be nice after a long weekend. You don't have to be in such of a rush.
Well, but I was going to ask you guys, over the course of this weekend, if you saw what happened to the Bay Area Panthers this weekend. Of course, our IFL Indoor Football League team, they won the championship.
Yeah, ring season. Season.
So from worst to first, 1-win season. Now they are atop the IFL, and they are number one.
We were talking this weekend. You getting a ring or what?
So, well, if they're listening, I could appreciate you sending one down to 24th Street in Harrison. But if you don't want to, I can understand, because we were not there over the weekend in Vegas. We were living vicariously through Dave Lewis and Stephen Pappin, who were on the call for that football game, did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And to live with them throughout this entire season, to see the turnaround that was from last year to this year. Shout out to Roy Choi, Marshawn Lynch, Scott McKibben, front office up there, and I should say down there in the South Bay. But the Panthers were amazing. So I hope that I would be able to get a ring, along with my broadcast partner, Mark Grandy, your producer. But I would understand.
Who in here has got a ring?
Yeah, does anybody have a ring?
I mean, I've won titles, but...
What kind?
You know.
Not...
Like replicas or...
Championship ring, section rings, a sports-related rings.
I got none.
I coached 3 North Coast section champions in a row back when you were in grammar school, both of you whippersnappers. It was 02, 03, and 04.
All right.
But we didn't really do individual rings. It was about the team, and it was about the pennant that you got, and my pennant hangs in Archie Williams High School, Drake High School, which is where I won the chip. So
there you go. That counts.
I got titles.
Back to back?
I got all kinds of titles. 3-peat, yeah. And
Whoa!
Had I stayed, I would have probably gotten a 4th.
All right.
I had a baby, Alan. You can appreciate it. And that baby's now a 20-year-old junior at Santa Barbara. And the ex-wife at the time, the wife, was pressuring me because I was living in Oakland and driving over to Marin every day. And, you know, the baby was a year old and it was becoming too arduous. But we had a team that would have won. I probably would have won 3 or 4 more had I stayed there.
But the banners were there. They still are there.
They still hang, yes, but no rings per se.
Well, and as long as we're talking about Dibs' coaching career,
Dan Dripley from the YouTube channel.
I happen to be speaking with my daughter, who's going to be a senior at Bishop O'Dowd, and I said, "Hey, how the sports team's going to be there this year?" And she, of course, she said everybody's going to stink. And then she said, "Well, actually, no. The boys volleyball team is loaded."
Loaded.
How long's it been since you were?
It's been a long time.
Is this going to be a what is it? A Gruden taking over Dungy's guys?
No, that's already happened. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I built the program from scratch. There was no program, and I coached there for a year and a half. The second of the 2 years was the pandemic, 2020, and then for a variety of personal reasons, I stepped away, and Nova took over, and he is an elite coach. But he inherited a program that was basically turnkey. So, all he has to do is show up with a pulse, and he's got himself a juggernaut, babe. So there you go.
Styles, how's your leg?
Good. Started physical therapy last week.
Nice.
Slow and steady wins the race.
For those who don't know, Styles with the ruptured Achilles or just torn?
Oh, yeah.
It was
all
ruptured.
the way gone.
It was being an athlete.
We're on the way back now. We're on the way back. Got a documentary coming out on it, so just be sure to tune in.
Yeah, and we expect you to play this year, but you won't be back to your regular self for 2 years with that injury.
Right. No, not 2 years. Right. I'm going to keep the putting game strong in terms of golfing. Basketball is going to take a little longer, but, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, Allen Styles.
Well, it's funny. You're talking about Styles makes fights. I might have heard that. I don't know if you saw. Allen and I called a game together over the weekend for the Women's Premier Basketball Association.
That was way too much fun.
It was a lot of fun. We did the semifinals on Saturday night, and the amount of Styles make fights references that were thrown into that singular broadcast.
You started it, though.
What are you talking about? I didn't say Styles or fights.
You started it. I kept it going, and I have a whole mixtape. Of my calls.
I was there
because growing up, and one mixtape was a thing, and I always loved that announcer. Can't hold them. Don't hold them. So I got my opportunity.
Oh, so that's where some of those came from.
No. They were all mine. They were all Ace Styles originals. But that's what I was trying. Money in the bank. Shoddy, what you think?
There's a hand down, man down. What's up?
You played baseball at Temple, correct? That's D1.
Steiny, we've been over this.
I know, but I'm doing it for the listener. And you
He's a
played
pro.
Division III baseball.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask Allen then.
Sure.
Why'd you have to set it up like that?
That was cool.
It's D1 is
D3.
So you've been around baseball enough that 2 games doesn't necessarily dictate where you're at and how you're feeling about a team.
Sure.
In other words, you're not relegating the Giants to a bad team because they lost to the A's twice.
Yeah.
Evan, even though he's a baseball guy, does tend to kind of view baseball's games like it's a 17-game season like the NFL. It's just a little strange.
Well, I think Evan has weird parallels because he's Padres, but he's always at A's games. So I think because it's the Giants, he might have a lens over his face that he can't necessarily take off.
So you mean I'm a baseball fan?
Sure, but you're not a Giants fan.
Do you have to be a Giants fan to...
No, but I think it affects how you view how the Giants perform.
I would agree. It does feel a little haterish when you talk about the Giants. There's that little twinge of, I'm an East Bay guy, and I'm not a fan of the team. It's just, from a listener, P1, first time, long time, on the drive-in today, I was like, oh, look at Evan. Evan's going in. He's going in on the orange and black, and I don't think he would do that to the green and gold.
Oh, I would. I don't have enough time. But the thing is, with Matt Steinmetz, because Steiny neither is here nor there when it comes to the subject of fandom.
Sure.
And so someone
I judge fandom. I'm not a fan, but I can judge it.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Precisely. So when we're talking about the Giants, trying to extract a stance is a difficult task to do. I think you'd
don't
understand.
force it. Just
we have to talk about something except it's baseball.
Well, I don't say, it's baseball. I like where the Giants are at right now. They're 61-51. They're the best non-division leading team in the NL. I don't think they had to make a monster move. They chose not to make some little moves. They've got a bunch of young players. We're down a pitcher or two, starting pitcher, but this is not nobody was expecting this team to win the World Series. So enjoy the next 2 months because I think we're going to the postseason.
Where I'm at with the Giants, and I'll give Steiny this. It's hard. It's hard to.
If you didn't know, Allen's a fan.
Sure, it's hard to discuss the Giants because they are probably one of the most confusing teams in the league. They're overachieving, right? But as I like to say, I used to say the same thing about Brad Stevens when he was with the Celtics. It is much easier to exceed expectations than to meet them. And for so long with the Giants, they've been exceeding expectations because they haven't got the big fish, because they don't have this crazy lineup. But it's getting to the point now where, it's all good. We're ahead. Where the window hasn't started yet. We're ahead of our time. It's getting to the point now where, okay, that's all fine and good, but when does the clock start? That's my question with the Giants. Let's say they don't get Ohtani. Because right now, it's just Farhan's going to continue to exceed expectations with a lesser lineup, but at some point, we're just going to get tired of that. Because we've seen this story before. They won 107 games, but you do need star power in the playoffs. You do. And anybody that says, during the run with the even year run with Buster, they had star power. I don't care what anybody says. So this idea that you can win with a bunch of no disrespect whatsoever, nobody's, it's just not true.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of finding out about this team. So why not find out how some of these players go through this pennant race? And if we get to the postseason, then that's another kind of evaluation. Like, I do think it's important where a team is in their chronology. Like, the 49ers have higher expectations than the Giants.
Agreed, but when is it going to start for the Giants? And I'm not even upset.
Started. I think this is like the first year, because it's the first year that there's some stuff from the farm system that's coming up.
So, well, and taking it back to college, right? And it's completely different now. NIL, transfer portal, different conversation for a different day. But, you got a new coach. Your clock starts when his recruits get in there.
Right.
So now we would say the clock is really starting for Farhan and for Gabe Kapler. Hey, you're getting some guys up there. It's time to rock and roll now.
It was supposed to be this year, but I think that the pandemic season and the injuries they had in the farm has given them and many fans the chance to say, okay, well, next year is when it really starts. And so I'm kind of with you in terms of when does it start, but now you've got Bailey, who was a Farhan pick, and Harrison appears to be close, and he was a Farhan pick.
De La Salle.
And yeah, exactly. You got to shout it out every chance you get.
I do.
And, you look at the other players that they have coming up through the system. They all were slated to arrive either this year or next. But I do look at what they've done, and I disagree with you, Steiny, in terms of their window, because you've sent Casey Schmidt back down, and Luciano is back down. So you really are going with veterans for the express purpose of trying to win this year. Otherwise, you would keep Casey Schmidt up here and let him toil and go 0 for 4 every night.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube powered by the First NorCal Credit Union. I think this is, like, again, I think let's see what we got here if we're the Giants. But you talk about the clock starting. I do think there's something to that, because if they don't make the playoffs this year, then you start saying, well, that's 1 in 5. That's 4 out of 5 years Farhan hasn't made the playoffs, and 3 out of 4 years that Kapler hasn't. So that is people are going to look at that time frame differently, and when the clock starts.
Yes.
Somebody's going to be like, the clock started 5 years ago.
Of course it did, because they took the job 4 years ago. And just like with Shanahan, we can all look at where he's gone from where he started, which was, you're now one of the best teams in the NFC each and every year, and the team he inherited was god-awful. And they were 0-10 to start his first year because he had a terrible roster. Now, was it because he was a bad coach? Probably not. We can look back now and say it probably was more about the roster than it was about Kyle Shanahan. But you're right, Steiny. If you don't make the playoffs this year, even though, you want to see what you have in the farm, and what you have in the farm right now is Luis Matos is a good player, and Patrick Bailey is a legitimate, phenomenal defensive catcher. Other than that, what do you have from the farm that they drafted?
Promise. That's it. I mean, at least for the first time.
I put Duvall in there.
Well, Duvall was up a couple of years ago.
But he's 23?
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
No. Yeah, he's.
I'm just talking about like young.
Yeah,
and
he's part of the
Logan
new
Webb
wave.
too.
He's
You
part
can
of the
put
new
Logan
wave.
Webb in that same bucket.
Yeah, I kind of even throw Estrada in there a little bit, but we don't have to get into that.
Well, no, sure, but my point is that the way that, like, the Giants to me just value the unknown or the question marks that they have either in their farm system or at the big league level. I should say the promise, because you got a bunch of wild cards that it didn't appear like they were willing to move off of for something lesser than the potential of what they believe they have in their system. At least finally, we're starting to see some of those benefits being reaped because guys are actually up in the bigs and performing and helping you win, as opposed to them saying next year, well, we got guys on the come. They're in the system. We got them. We just got to wait. We got to be patient. Now you're actually starting to see those pieces. But to me, and this is where I just don't believe that every single season you can project what is going to happen. I would like to see if the Giants have an opportunity. If they're a playoff-bound team, I think they'll be in October. If they continue to play, well, they play better than they've been playing. But wouldn't you want to either add an infusion of a vet or bring in someone that's been there before or just give them some sort of help? Because honestly, down the stretch of a postseason push, I'm not necessarily expecting big things out of the rookies or the young guys because they haven't been there before. That's where I think the the mainstays, either the Lamont Wades or the Jock Petersons, or I'm trying to think of guys on the staff. Even a guy like Alex Wood, who's got postseason experience. Like, those are the guys.
Same thing.
Yeah, those are guys that I'm looking for to help this team. And I just am not sure if they can do it by themselves. That's why I was disappointed in the deadline, not because they didn't go out and get a big boy. I don't think you should have to mortgage your farm system. But the Dodgers gave up Trace Thompson for Lance Lynn. He's helped them win 2 baseball games so far. Like, the Philadelphia Phillies did not give up a ton for Michael Lorenzen, who's helped them win a game and can pitch a postseason game for them. Those guys aren't big, sexy names, but they can not only help those teams get to October, but maybe even help you in a playoff game. With the Giants don't have anything.
AJ Pollock.
He ain't going to be on the team when Yaz is back, which I'm sure you know.
But he was a vet.
Right.
He is a vet that they brought in.
Now, it's a big ad, too. And you actually,
I wouldn't know.
You ticked off the list of teams and other players that got added around baseball and the impact they've had. And I thought that was very well stated by you, Evan, because I'm also with you in terms of the disappointment. And Farhan can say that there weren't any good players out there. And Mark Willard and I, who's out this week, Styles will be in all week, we had this very argument, this debate about what was, quote, out there or not out there. To me, there were upgrades for your roster. And you look at this weekend against the Oakland Athletics, the Oakland A's, for God's sakes, and you couldn't handle the worst team in baseball. And yesterday was a great example of, even when you hit, you found a way to lose. Brandon Crawford throwing the ball all over the diamond, and your pitching wasn't great. Some little 5'6" kid hit you for 2 home runs.
By the way, he had 1 home run the whole year.
Yeah, he got you for a 2-piece down the line in left field.
Nicky A?
That to me was more
bandbox.
It was more embarrassing. It was more of an embarrassment than it was damaging to their playoff chances.
No, I agree, but when I stack those 2 losses with the losses to the Nationals, with the losses to the Royals, with the losses to some of the teams that they have or should be able to handle throughout the totality of the season. Again, I'm not just looking at the weekend, Steiny, and this is why I think you oversimplify my point a little bit here. Okay. But when you look at the entire year, they have played up and down to competition. That's not a trait to me of some team that I can take super seriously.
But I think have they? But they're 27 and 24 against 500 and below, 34 and 27. Those are the numbers, right?
Yeah, so they played up and down to their level of competition.
I don't see that as a huge disparity.
Well, it isn't for a team that's young and that you're expecting to do big things in the future. My point is simply, if you are hoping that this Giants team is going to make some noise this year, why would you feel good?
Well, I think you just feel like you're playing with house money.
Just the record?
My point is that I just think you're playing with house money at this point. And my big picture point was that at what point is Farhan no longer going to be playing with house money? So to your point, what they've done against good teams, bad teams doesn't really matter to me because I wasn't taking the Giants seriously to win the World Series this year. But my point is that at what point can we take them seriously, right? It's a cop-out to me for the Giants to continue to not make moves. And I'm happy with them because I was one of the fans that was, we got to bring up the kids. Well, they brought up the kids, but you can't expect to bring up the kids and also win the World Series. It happened. So I was looking up last year, the Phillies, I believe at one point had 8 rookies, right, who rotated throughout the postseason roster. But they really only had one, Bryson Stott, who I believe was their shortstop, who was playing every single day. They had 2 other position players that would, hop in and out, but he was really the only staple. They went to the World Series. They didn't win, but they went there. So I'm thinking, man, that's a lot. But in terms of who they needed to contribute, really there was only one they were counting on. Now, if you look at the Giants, these guys come up, they're counting on them right now because nobody else is hitting. So It's not just that you brought the rookies up, it's that you kind of need them, to your point, Evan, to do things that you really shouldn't expect them to be able to do. But ultimately, and again, this is no disrespect, am I really expecting that much out of a team when Wilmer Flores is their best hitter? No.
He's their only hitter. And the rest of the team is below 200 batting average since the start of July. If you take Wilmer out of it, the whole rest of the lineup has been awful in terms of productivity. Yeah. So I'm with you in terms of expectations, but to me, it's too much of a convenient excuse because this is what you've built. You didn't make any moves at the deadline, and this is what you're going with, and you brought in Haniger and Conforto, who haven't really consistently helped you. Yaz has been hurt. Everybody's been hurt. Tyro is just now finally back, and you don't have enough productivity. You don't have enough offense for me, and then you've got 2 starting pitchers. So to think at all about this team making a deep run, to me, is mostly foolhardy.
But I also think it's like, I think they're...
Do you think they're going to make the postseason?
I think they'll make it. Yeah, they better make it.
I think that's going to be tough. Like, again, they don't play a team outside the next 3 games that we don't expect in October until September 5th. So, like,
well, the Angels aren't a team we expect in October.
I'm saying outside of the Angels.
I wanted to ask you this, Evan, from a statistical standpoint, because you talked about their record against teams that are 500. What happens if a team like the Diamondbacks, if they fall below 500, do all those games that they played against a team that's above 500, do they now go into the category of teams that are below 500?
They do, I think, actually. Well, yeah,
that's why, to me, that stat for me is very arbitrary, because it's more important to me what the team's record was when you played them. For the Angels are a great example. The Angels are going to wind up sub 500, so if they take 2 of 3 from the Angels, right now the Angels are a mess. They've lost, 7 in a row? Or they're 2-8 since the deadline.
Sure.
So, but if the Angels go above 500 at the end of the year, these wins that they get against the Angels are suddenly wins against teams that are above 500?
Yeah, that's one that it's up to you.
Right.
It's up to you how you want to do it.
Well, when you go to Baseball Reference and it says record against teams that are above 500, does that mean teams that finished above 500 or teams that were above 500 when you played them?
Yeah, I mean, so Arizona is a team that could end up, they might end up below 500. So
yeah, they're also skidding.
They are. But, you look up and down, you see series losses to teams that are not good,
right?
That don't have a chance to get above 500, that will stay below 500. And that's to where, like, yes, it's not a perfect stat, I agree with you, but to me it's just a barometer that I use to kind of gauge how well a team, how much a team should be taken seriously, and more importantly, do they take care of business? Like the Miami Marlins are 26-35 against teams below 500 or above. Sorry, so they haven't played great against top of the class.
Right.
That means they take care of business against teams they should beat.
Yeah.
In my mind, like that's the only reason that they're in contention for October. But that also means that I have a hard time looking at them as seriously as a team in their own division like the Philadelphia Phillies, because the Phillies play good baseball against good teams, and they've also gotten better. So, like
I like where the Giants are then, right? Because they're not playing bad teams in the postseason.
No, but they're about to play some really good teams over the next month.
I think you're going to see what they're made of.
I'll tell you what. Don't let Bochy's return be a sweep, or people are going to lose it.
Giants are going to sweep that series.
I'm just saying.
People are
going to lose
I think we got Webb. I think we got Webb going in that series.
He's pitching tonight,
Yeah.
so yeah, he would line up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, they haven't been able to win more than they've lost with him.
God, you'd think the Giants were 40-80.
What are they, 61-51?
Yeah.
Loses
They're the
a 2
best
straight
non-division
What is their
leading team.
road losing skid at? Is it at 8, 7, or 8? They've lost in a row on the road?
They had the Diamondbacks. That was at home.
Yeah.
Then who was before? Then we got a problem with the road. So bad on the road. And they're still the only thing that matters is 61-51. 61-51.
Yeah, some
But
teams
you know
just
that
can't
numbers
beat good
and
teams.
records-
You could beat bad teams.
Lie. Yeah.
I like where I say this a lot.
I know you like where they're at.
I don't know how you can if you're a Giants fan.
Because it's baseball.
But I'm saying,
Do you like where the Giants are at right now?
I'm saying, Evan, if you think
I know,
that
it's
if you went
frustrating,
into the
isn't it?
season thinking that this is our year, then sure. But nobody was thinking that.
I thought the Giants would make the playoffs for the
They're
season.
probably going to make the playoffs.
And I doubt that. I don't know. I'm just.
That's all right.
8 in a row on the road. They lost they lost 2 in Cincinnati. They got swept by the Washington Nationals. They lost in that one piece. You get the one piece in Detroit, and then they lost back-to-back games in Oakland. So if you want to put your faith in a team that cannot win on the road, that's up to you, Steiny. Go ahead. 8 in a row on the road.
And maybe you know,
Allen, help me.
maybe deep down,
That's a literal ask.
Oakland's had a rough go. Maybe deep down, the baseball god said, you know what? Just let Oakland have this
East
one.
Bay native Brandon Crawford gave a couple cookies of the A's yesterday.
You know what?
That's what happened.
I got some buddies in the stands. Let me just airmail this.
Amador Valley's in the house. I gotta give him a couple.
See, again, it's all for you about the negative instead of saying, boy, did Paul Blackburn spin a yarn. I mean, Paul Blackburn was wonderful. Yeah.
He's not a good pitcher.
He was the other day.
Because of who he was facing.
Why can't you tip your cap?
Why can't
you got to tip your cap to Blackburn.
You should.
Just you have to admit it.
I know you want to get out of here.
Can you please tip your cap to Paul Blackburn?
I'm not wearing a hat.
All right, gentlemen, you have a good show.
All right, Steiny.
And we'll talk to you tomorrow.